This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Today is Tuesday, January 23rd, and we are officially 93 days away from the NFL Draft in Detroit, Michigan. Welcome in to the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. We've got Nick Harris, Brian Broaddus, Aisha Morrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans, Chris Beam in the back as we break it down for you today. We've got plenty of draft news, Cowboys news, and then coming up very, very soon, we're going to be talking about Senior Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Shrine Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Got some good things coming on the horizon here for the draft, but we've got some early things to talk about. Brian, it feels like every time the Cowboys get to this time of the year and Cowboys fans are still watching NFL playoffs.
Yeah.
They're looking at these teams that are having success, that are moving on, and they're saying, how can we build that similar direction? So I ask you the question. Did you learn anything from the divisional round weekend and these teams that are going to play for conference championships this week?
Yeah, the things that we like to talk about in player personnel evaluations and how to build your team is talking about the middle of your team, the middle of your defense. Continue to look at what the San Francisco 49ers do at linebacker. Continue to look at how teams handle the middle of the field. You look at what Dallas didn't handle the middle of the field well in their playoff matchup against the Green Bay Packers.
All year, really.
Yeah. Statistically, you're right. Look at what San Francisco did against Green Bay. Everything outside the numbers was fine for the Green Bay Packers. Everything up the middle of that defense was a problem for that team. So to me, when we look at, we all know about the linebacker situation. We kind of understand a little bit about the safeties and what's going on here. The tackles are another thing. But it just reinforced to me that if you're not solid and dependable up the middle of your defense, you're going to have problems in these games. And the San Francisco 49ers are the best example of that to me.
Yeah, you can look at the Baltimore Ravens, too, and
Yeah.
what they've been able to do on the defensive side of the ball and that linebacking core that they have. And it's strong. It's strong. You look at the teams that are still playing and what they kind of have in common. It's things that the Cowboys don't have.
Right.
It's very clear that it needs to be addressed.
It's run game, it's interior defensive line, it's linebackers. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, Aisha, whenever you look at the teams that are winning these games and then the style that they're winning it too, because they can win in different ways.
Right.
That's part of it. And then Cowboys can win in different ways too. Let's not get it twisted. But whenever it comes to that way specifically, that physical ground game and controlling the trenches, you just don't have that.
Oh, yeah. One thing that stands out to me, and that stood out to me when you talk about all those teams, they're good at 12 personnel.
Yeah.
Because it counters a lot of what teams like to do defensively, especially when you talk about the nickel and how teams use it. And so, to me, the lack of Cowboys ran, I don't know how much 12 personnel they ran this year. They had a lot of success in 11, which was kind of, to me, the opposite of last year. They had more success in 12 personnel. I really think moving into next year, I want to see them be more stout there to counter some of the things that teams do defensively and be able to move the ball efficiently.
Is that possible to revamp that entire physicality, though, in one draft class?
We've been talking about this for 2 years with the Dallas Cowboys,
Yeah.
to be honest with you guys. Yeah, I mean, if we've all covered this team long enough and understand it that, it was 2 years ago that the draft was all about going out and getting tougher guys. They stood up on the podium there and told us about they needed to be tougher. They needed to be more physical. We're still talking about it here. And you kind of felt like that, maybe last year with the draft with, the first couple of picks, I was linking up with Mozzie Smith, a 329-pound defensive tackle. I was thinking about a physical tight end at the point of attack. Those things didn't work out for them. I think they're still chasing that physicality, demeanor, if you want to say, for their football team.
I have a question to that. When you think about the Cowboys roster, who are the gentlemen that you think about that are physical?
The first one I think of is Tyler Smith up front. Young, in terms of like young guys that you're going to have for moving forward for a significant amount of time, I think of Tyler Smith.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking. Tyler Smith, CeeDee Lamb in route running this past year, he showed a lot more physicality this past season. But, if we're talking about guys you would like to see on the defensive side of the ball be a little bit more physical, like Donovan Wilson, obviously.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it's tough to really – you'd be reaching.
Would you throw Osa in there?
First 8 games, Osa.
See, this is the thing that we have to figure out too, and that's a great point you made. And to your point, I think it's Wilson. I mean, to your question,
And maybe Tank.
Yeah, and
You gotta
Yeah,
be. You gotta
yeah,
be.
absolutely.
I think
Tank
Tank
that.
is so smart.
Yeah.
I think if you said who's the smartest player you have on your defense, I would say Tank.
DeMarcus.
And so my follow-up question to that is, well, the way that I processed it is the way, besides Tyler on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, your physical guys are your older guys.
Yeah.
Some of your older guys. That's a problem to me.
That's a problem.
Your young guys should be outlasting and being more of that physical presence. And I think that's some of what you saw even in the playoffs is like you're looking for those young guys with fresh legs to come out and give you something, because those older guys they've been working their tails off. So I'm looking. That's another thing too. I think this also plays back into the lack of contribution that you got from your draft class,
Sure.
and also to just that. To your point, we've been talking about physicality for a while. It's just been some of these older gentlemen, these veteran gentlemen that are setting that tone. I was looking for some of the young guys to kind of match that, or you bring in some guys to match that.
I wonder where the disconnect is with. Okay, just if you could summarize, what do you think they were looking for in this last draft class? If you had to say in just a few words, it's hard for me to say anything.
I don't want to get.
I think
You were trying to pigeonhole needs, I think, at some point.
See, whatever they did in that regard of the prep to build their board that way,
Yeah.
they need not to go that direction. And this team has done a really good job of drafting the best available player.
Yeah.
They really have. When you think they're going to take that defensive end from LSU when they really need it, and they take CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That to me, maybe they need to go back and evaluate that. And maybe they were trying to get tougher and it didn't work out. They didn't pick the tough guys, like you say, Aisha. Maybe the young guys aren't stepping up. But I wonder what you guys thought about you thought their plan was with this draft.
I wouldn't qualify this as far as the first 2 picks that they made with Mozzie Smith and Luke Schoonmaker, but you look at what they drafted and look at it on paper, it looked like they were going for positional flex. You look at what Tyler Smith was able to do in his first season, moving from tackle to guard. Hey, I like that. Let's look for some more guys that can do some things like
Boy, that gets me in trouble though sometimes, because I saw Tyron Crawford. I saw him get just he went from being, I thought, a really good player to they started moving him around too much. Is he an end? Is he a tackle? The position flex thing I think is fine to a point, but when it becomes the thing that you're hanging your hat on, then I think you get in trouble that way.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting thinking that way, specifically going into this year and having a draft class centered around that. And then you have the conversation of Tyler Smith and his position flex, and they say, you know what, we're not going to move him at all.
Yeah.
We're going to situate him in one specific spot. Yeah. So it's almost like going counterbalancing what you were trying to accomplish in the first place.
What did you?
It was just looking at more of the other guys. You look at Overshown, they has that safety linebacker flex. He can even rush the passer a little bit. You look in the 4th round, Viliami Fehoko. As soon as he was drafted, the word was, okay, he can move inside, he can move outside. 5th round, you look at Austin Richards. Yeah, we think he can move inside to guard. We think he has some ability there. I mean, you're even talking about Mozzie Smith. The first thing that came out of their mouth was, we think we can unlock a little bit of pass rush in him. So, like, being able to have a little bit added element to their game. I mean, you could look at all the draft picks after Schoonmaker and really find something as far as versatility goes.
So in order to do that, what do you need? Time, correct?
Yeah, I think
all those players you talked about. I mean, besides maybe like an Overshown, I thought if he hadn't got injured, he could have made an immediate impact. But all those things that you're talking about require development and require time. Baby, you didn't have time this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
needed them this year. And so to me, and again, like, this is how I viewed this draft class. I felt like it was a very supporting draft class. I personally thought the Cowboys looked at what they did in free agency with getting Stephon and then also getting Brandon Cooks. I thought they felt like they filled those needs that maybe they would have went and attacked in the draft, and they were comfortable, maybe a little too comfortable, with their starters, with their roster. And so the guys that they added were, we'll give them a year and let them develop or whatever. I personally thought they were a little too confident in the roster that they had going into this season, even though they did some good things. And like I said before, those gentlemen, a lot of the gentlemen they drafted require time, and you should have been trying to win this year.
So kind of based off that point and switching the attention back to the 2024 draft class, out of the individuals and the prospects that you guys have watched to this point, do you feel like this class is better suited for a toughness thought process for the Cowboys, or maybe a ready-made time to play now, like a ready for the NFL, pro-ready stuff.
You know what? When I look at the projections of the guys that could be centers, you know, I do. We've talked about Barton and we've talked about the Oregon kid. I think there is an element of toughness to those two guys. I really, really do. So I find myself in my notes. I don't know about you guys when I'm watching. I just type in. I'm like, man, this guy plays hard. Mm-hmm. This guy looks like he loves the game. I'm typing that a lot more on these players than I believe I have in the past. And maybe that's my fault, Aisha, because I'm looking for those guys. You know, I'm looking because I know this team needs younger, but more of that toughness element to it.
You're looking for grit.
It's funny that you guys say that because I literally wrote in my notes as I was looking at even the wide receivers, I was like, nice to be back to normal. Because last year when you looked at, to your point about the grit and the toughness, I do think there's a lot of old school type players in this draft. Even when you look at the tight end room, I think there are some guys that have receiving qualities, but these are just tight ends. You know what I'm saying? To me, and even with the running backs that I've looked at, it's not a whole bunch of super finesse special stuff. They're just running backs. Like they can just run the ball efficiently. And when you talk about the offensive line, all that stuff, it does feel like kind of turning back the clock, less fancy schmancy type things.
Could it be with older players?
Fundamentals.
Yeah. Could it be
COVID year?
Well, the COVID year of adding another year and making guys a little bit fifth-year guys or six-year guys now.
You do see more polish from certain players. I do think since I've been looking, I'm more so like, oh, he looks like he gets the position. Oh, he has a good feel for the position, or you can tell he's been doing this for a while. I do think I see more of that this draft so far.
Can I be a sicko for a moment?
Yes.
When it comes to some
that.
toughness as far as things.
So Nick goes into sicko
That's
mode
who
from
he
now
is.
every now and again, and it's phenomenal.
Okay, so we talked about Jackson Powers Johnson last week, and all of these are going to point towards
Out of
toughness.
Oregon.
Yeah, Remington Award winner as the nation's best center this past year. Phenomenal. I mean, we talked about it last week, I think, enough. I mean, he's a guy that's a mauler up front. Cosign. Cedric Van Pran Granger out of Georgia, center.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a quick story on him. He's out of Warren Easton in New Orleans, one of the more storied programs down there in New Orleans. So he was got into a practice fight a couple of years ago with one named Bear Alexander. I mean, this is public news, so I'm not breaking anything here. Got into a fight with Bear Alexander in the middle of a practice. Bear Alexander is a bear. He's out of Denton Ryan High School, 6'3", 320 pounds. There was a clear winner in that fight between those two guys. And the next day, Bear Alexander was in the portal.
Barnacles.
So
He
Cedric
beat him into the portal?
Yeah.
Not the portal.
Yeah, it was tough.
Knocked
now
him
he's
into
at
the
USC.
portable.
Now he's at USC. He's going to be a guy, honestly, he's going to be a guy we talk about in the first 3 rounds next year. He's a dog. But it was shocking because, I mean, I don't want to say that. He got into a fight with a guy who entered the portal the next day. But you look at him on the field, he has that toughness on the field.
Yeah.
He has that New Orleans grit down on the field. He's a really intriguing guy that I think you could look at in the middle rounds if you're still looking for a center at that point. Really like what he brings to the table. Now, if you're looking on the defensive side of the ball, I really like Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State. He's a wrestling state champion out of North Carolina. He brings that type of physicality to the field. Over 400 tackles in his time with the Wolfpack. I mean, he could have gone anywhere. Alabama, Michigan, all these programs were all over him. He decided to stay home and go to North Carolina State, and as a result, he was able to start all 4 years, really stack some confidence, stack some reps. He's a guy I really like as a linebacker option in the middle rounds as well.
That's interesting. A lot of people comparing him. I haven't watched him yet, so if you guys have watched him, give your scouting report. But they're saying it's very comparable to Steve Avila last year from TCU in terms of his footwork and his grit and his size. I mean, there's a lot of things that they compare with just based off of what I'm reading here about Van Pran. Is that how you say his name? Van Pran?
Yeah, and he's
Cedric
hyphenated his
Van
name.
Pran.
It looks like he's hyphenating his name in the draft process. So Cedric Van Pran Granger. I always knew him as Van Pran whenever I was covering him in high school, but looks like we got a Granger as a hyphenated name. So
Yeah, it's cool how you spell Cedric.
Yeah, for sure.
Y'all do.
Anybody else that, even on the defensive side, I know we're talking offensive line specifically, but is there a defensive side where your physicality can play a factor?
We're going to talk about defensive tackles later, right?
A little bit of defensive
we?
tackle
'Cause
later.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because
save
I'm
it.
going to say.
We can save it for
Save it.
I don't want to.
But we could look at a couple of edge guys. I mean, Jared Verse out of Florida State. This was a guy that transferred in from Albany. I mean, he didn't have anything going on whenever he was out of a high school recruit. And whenever he entered the portal out of Albany a couple of years ago, he was one of the hotter prospects in the entire portal, top 5 portal prospect with all the websites that do portal rankings. And he went to Florida State, and he shows that. You could also look at Chop Robinson out of Penn State. He's a late first, early second round guy that has a lot of that physicality as well that you like off the edge.
I like Chop as a name.
Yeah, 1,000%. And we've talked about Latu and his size and how he's kind of got a little Joey Bosa to him. So, I mean, there's some guys in this class I really enjoy.
So you said Chop Robinson out of Penn State. We got to get better at saying the school names afterwards. Latu from UCLA.
Yep.
What were the other names you mentioned?
Jared Verse out of Florida State. Man, one more that I could throw in. If y'all remember that Colorado State game, everybody in the world
I'm
watched.
pulling up my notes right now on Kamara.
Yep, Mohamed Kamara.
Yeah,
man, he's a dog, and that was the number one.
Colorado State. Yeah,
he did.
He was the reason Colorado State was even in that game, and then he had some personal foul penalties at the end. I mean, he was throwing bows in the sideline.
He made a lot of money that day.
Yeah, let me tell you, this kid has got some DeMarcus Lawrence to his game in the way he plays the run. I mean, he can rush the passer, but you cannot run on the outside of this guy. He's a shorter guy. He's 6'1", he's 250. But, man, he's got some complete traits as far as when it comes to getting rid of blockers, getting upfield, kind of having an idea of angling inside, making a play behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, you look at him, and he's just – when he rushes, I mean, he comes screaming off that edge. And I mean, I have a lot of respect for his game because, again, when you brought up Tank, I always think of that complete guy. The guy that can play the run, can play the pass, smart, show toughness, make plays. This kid's got some of those traits to him.
Yeah, to that point, I feel like I'm going to take a deeper dive into edge because now that y'all are talking about it and I'm thinking about the Cowboys roster as a whole.
Yeah.
Baby, you might need to go get one or two.
Yeah, I think absolutely you do. Especially when you look at the size discrepancy that I think you look at with what the Cowboys have versus what other teams in the league have. You're probably going to lose a couple of bodies there with Dante Fowler going out, or being a free agent at least. So I think you need to beef up the edge. I think you have to take a pick somewhere.
There's a kid you're going to like at Utah, Jonah Elias. Mm-hmm. He reminds me of Will McDonald. And I knew, you really, really liked Will McDonald a lot on that. You had some really good notes about Will McDonald. But Jonah Elias, his dad played for the Lions, and he's currently the coach. He's the coach at Utah. His dad's the defensive line coach, but he's an edge for them. He's got some, when you start to talk about rushers and things like that, I think when you get into your edges, you're going to like him.
Y'all notice that it's a lot of legacies in this draft?
There's a couple of them.
It seems like they're stacking every year.
It's not I don't even know.
I feel like there's a lot of coaches' kids pretty often.
Well, the thing about it is, though, to me, and I'm the far oldest guy in this group, so I've scouted their dads too. Mm-hmm. It's nice to see their sons have the type of success. There's some players. There's some players in this draft that their dads were really, really good players, and they're even better players than their dad was.
Nice.
Which is, I think, is a neat thing to see.
No doubt about it. All right, time to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to do some Twitter on the 20. We promise we're going to get to more than one answer today. It's going to happen. We're going to do more than one Twitter on the 20 question. Draft Show continues right after this.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
Hi, I'm Danny McCray, Dallas Cowboys alumni player here with Smoothie King. And Smoothie King wants to ask you, what's that sound? That's the sound of us magically transforming our smoothie bowls into 2 new decadent flavors. Dig into a cool acai or pitaya bowl, handcrafted with crunchy, purely Elizabeth granola, fresh strawberries, and finished with a velvety chocolate hazelnut drizzle. Perfect for breakfast, lunch, or anytime you want to munch. And that's the sound of you making them disappear. Smoothie bowls, now in 2 new decadent flavors. Only at Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Some Twitter on the 20. Do we have the sounder? I don't know what's going on in the back there. But we're back here on Talking Cowboys. Ding. It's time for Twitter
Talking
on
Cowboys.
the 2020. Did I say Talking Cowboys?
There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, we're breaking the fourth wall here, everybody. We're making it work. All right, welcome back in. Time now for Twitter on the 20. The first question that I have is from Anthony. He says, with the lack of middle round picks this year, would you not consider trading a high pick for an established player?
Run that back.
So you lack the 5th round picks. Does that deter you from trading a high value pick, 1, 2, or 3, from getting an established player that's already in the league? Or would you rather draft those positions up
You
front?
need the picks you have now, if that's what they're asking. Are
Yes,
they saying
that's
like
what they're
trading a pick for a big time player?
Does it deter
you need the
you
picks.
from that?
Yeah, you need the picks.
Yeah.
I don't think folks don't get discouraged out there without having middle picks. Mm-hmm. You can get middle picks. Mm-hmm. People will move around in the draft. You can move back 3 spots. You could pick up a 3rd. You could pick up a 4th. You could pick up a 5th. You're going to get some compensatory picks. Don't let that bother you in this thing. Don't focus on the number right now you have. What you focus on is the number as the draft is going along. That's where I've never felt like, moving picks on, it never was a problem for me because I knew, like I said, okay, if I want to move back 3 spots right now, I can pick up a 4, So don't let this discourage you. That Stephen Jones and Will McClay, those guys, they know how to play the board. They know how to play the trade chart, They can get picks back in this thing. Don't let this bother you right now.
That made me feel so much better.
Really don't. No,
right
I've sat in that room. I've sat in that room for 13 years doing this.
Yeah.
If somebody will always call you for the opportunity to pick up a pick, and you could absolutely, and you don't know, you might be able to trade one of your players for a pick, but don't feel like that this is the final product of what you're going to have. There's going to be opportunities of phone calls, the ability to move up, move back, and you could pick up picks along the way. It's never the final number right now. The final number is when Commissioner Goodell stands up there and say, welcome to the 2024 NFL Draft. Now we're playing. Oh, yeah. Now we're going to go get some picks, or we're going to sit here and make the picks we got.
Yeah. Would you deter away from taking those picks, or would you try and do what Brian's doing and massage the board to go get some more?
Oh, no, I personally think the Cowboys are going to maybe be a little bit more aggressive than what they've been in past years. If you don't feel the urgency in this building, I think you're living in a fairy tale land as far as what they need to do to get to the next level. And I do think it isn't the same way that we look at this past draft class. They are looking at it too.
Yeah.
They're looking at the lack of production and stuff too. So I do think that, to Nick's point, I think keeping your picks is going to be important, but I think when that day comes, you should be active, and phones should be ring ding ding, and you understand.
Yeah, I agree.
Stacy asked, the bigger priority on the offensive line when taking value and depth into consideration, is the bigger priority center or left tackle?
Center.
For me, I think it's left tackle. I think that's more.
We've got a debate.
I think it's more of left tackle because let's say Tyron Smith is not in the building next year. Who's your left tackle?
Probably awesome.
If Tyler Biadasz is not in the building next year, then who's your center?
We don't know.
Probably a TJ Bass.
Maybe a
or
TJ
Brock
Bass
Hoffman.
or a Hoffman.
I think there's better depth right now at center than there would be at left tackle.
Is that because you've seen Bass and Hoffman play?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But I think you can't hide no center, honey.
Yeah.
You can help out.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can help out a tackle, but
They need both. That's for sure.
That's fair. But I do think that the center's inability to, number one, I just feel like them getting at the second level. I feel like that was a huge problem this year. And so for me, I'm looking at, and when we're talking about, okay, what do these other offenses do well in the league? Baby, they get out in space and they let their guys get to the second level consistently.
Yeah.
We didn't see that this year, and I do think it had a lot to do with the middle of that offensive line, specifically the center.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. To all those points, I just think you'll end up having a bigger issue if you don't have a starting left tackle.
No, I
think
mean,
it's-
importance is. I mean, that's the blind side, and I do get it, and I am sad that we did not get to see Awesome in any capacity this year. It was kind of weird to me because there were times where I thought, if Edoga couldn't go, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see what this rookie got, and we didn't get a chance to see him play. So I do think it puts you in a weird place evaluation-wise of like, we don't know what we're getting from this player right now, for real.
Nick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick that left guard to left tackle.
That's what I was just about to ask.
I'm going to put Bass at left guard, and I'm going to draft a badass center, and we're going to start running the football.
I think you can get busy with that too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, they won't do it, but
they would
Brian
not do
Broad,
it.
as failed scout sitting here on the draft show today, would say that to me, I feel like I could protect myself. You're right. I think the two main reasons they couldn't run the football. They weren't good enough at center, and at times he was good, but
Absolutely.
not all the time.
Consistency.
And he's a free agent, right? So I think they're going to probably move on from that. This team, it's easy to say, oh, we'll go out and get Travis Frederick. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
But to me, I think you could get a bigger player, a more physical player, and one, to Aisha's point, that not only can work the scoop and the reach game, but also get second level. And we always talk about cut the defense in half. What the Packers do, they cut your defense in half. Ball comes to the presses, and then it comes behind the center. Big gain. Dallas needs to get back to playing football that way.
And there was really no point whenever you're watching the film of Tyler Biadasz cutting the field in half. If he held his ground, that was a good snap for Tyler Biadasz.
He gave you everything he had.
Yes, he did.
I mean,
Yes,
the kid is he's a great human being. He learned along the way. He got better with his calls, the protection, stuff like that. It's just limited what he can do.
Yeah.
You have a badass center. You can do a lot of things on your offense.
So, but in regard to your idea of maybe TJ Bass being the left guard, Tyler being, do you want to take away from TJ Bass's swing ability? Do y'all look at him as maybe?
I think he could start.
I think he could start too.
Yeah.
But holy crap, it was real nice.
Yeah.
To
Whenever
know
Martin
that if
went down.
Martin went down, or with the value that
He
he
has
showed,
a point about the tackle, though. I do acknowledge that.
No, he's right.
I know he
He's
acknowledged that.
right.
Yeah.
Two things can be true at once.
Are you guys feeling okay at right tackle too? Do you feel okay with Terrence Steele and what he gave you? Y'all watched the film.
I'm okay with not having to address it until potentially next offseason.
Yes, because you got to give.
Because you just pay the guy.
I think it's fair.
A little bit of hesitation there.
I do think it's fair to give him some time, but also too, we talked about it. It wasn't just about the players. It was a lot of scheme too. And I'm like, some of the things that he does very well, when he was able to do them, especially in the run game, you saw some of who he was even last year. So I'm waiting to see personally.
Him and Martin were so much better last year together.
Yes,
and
they were.
The tight end really hurt him this year. I mean, Ferguson is so much better than Dalton Schultz in my mind. Just so much better. But the blocking aspects of things, they tried to address it with Schoonmaker. And to Aisha's point, and she's absolutely right, give Schoonmaker another year. Give Schoonmaker the opportunity to be in the weight room. And not that Michigan has a poor weight room and all. Trust me, I've been at Schembechler Hall. That thing is like it's amazing how big that place is. But to me, you've got to be able to be better at the point of attack with your tight ends and also with your center. Those are the two areas. I think if I could get those two areas taken care of, I'll work on the right tackle, getting him right.
What you got?
Yeah, I agree completely. I was talking about right tackle. Whenever we're talking about Terrence Steele, it's like, I think that's something to move on for potentially next offseason if things don't go well next year. One quick thing I want to touch on as far as TJ Bass goes, though. I mean, I think if you focus him in on right guard and let him be the successor to Zach Martin, then that's probably your best opportunity there. Let him develop. I wouldn't want to throw him in a starting position. Could he start next season? I think he could, but I don't want to put that position on him.
You know what? It's I give you a lot of credit for this because you were talking about TJ Bass quite a bit last year.
I liked him.
You did, and you were talking about why is nobody talking about this guy more? You're absolutely right about him. Talking to guys around the league, scouts around the league, they're like, we miss this kid. We totally missed this kid because he should have been drafted. He should have been drafted. You know, there's a lot of guys he played better than, you know, with the opportunity he had. So I kind of feel like that to me, I think he's a starter. I just do. I just feel like that he's shown me enough to where, you know, it's not going to be perfect with your offensive line. But, gosh, he's better than a lot of guys that got drafted that I saw play this year. Yeah. You know, the opponents with the Cowboys, I'm like, man, that's a bad guard. That's another bad guard. That guy's really a bad guard. You know, this kid, when he played, I didn't hold my breath. Like initially, I was like, okay, let's see what happens. But you were right about him.
You kind of see it in training camp, too. Yeah. Just the physicality and the
toughness.
Yeah.
Best rookie in the class.
He really was. And he's got some rapport with one Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon,
yes,
too.
Sir.
Just by the way. Along that same line, Cowboys Ant says, if you had to guess the first round pick today, who would it be, position and player?
Gosh,
I like this. It's so early. So, I mean, you're not going to be.
We figured out Leighton Vander Esch in March. We did. We actually did.
We're in January.
We're in January.
You got a little bit of time.
Please, not again.
It feels like every mock draft on the planet is pinning Jordan Morgan to the Cowboys, and that's something I'm going to touch on a little bit later on DallasCowboys.com. But, I mean, you talked about Jordan Morgan last week. That's a guy that makes sense at left tackle. He's got so many reps, so many snaps playing there at Arizona. He'd be a guy that's, you know, he matches the size.
We didn't influence people here, did we?
maybe so.
Are they already watching the draft show?
All we can do is
He's
put out
a really good player. He is a very good player, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. As far as that, as other potential first-round options, I know we
stop it over there.
We had potentially looked at Amarius Mims if he was able to fall. I think if Amarius Mims falls to 24, that's a guy you take over Jordan Morgan in my book. But yeah, it's a really good tackle class, and I'm very interested to see how quick they fly off the board, or not quick at all. You know, I wonder if there's a first round type talent that could slip to in the 30s or the 40s, whatever. So
it feels like the last couple years we've been hoping for that. I mean.
Exactly. You were kind of hoping that for the tight ends in the second round last year.
Tight ends. You were hoping. Hope is never a strategy, but there were times that you were looking at this board and you're saying, "Hey, things are shaping up really good. We're about 10 picks away," and then boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
8 of your 9 picks have gone off the board, and then you got to kind of take a pick.
How bad are Peyton Wilson's injuries?
Yeah, it definitely scares you. He does have 2 injuries, and I always factor that in. That's a really important context and data point whenever you're looking at guys and whenever you're evaluating them.
Sure.
For me, I look at the production that he's had this last season and what he looks like as far as movement and lateral movement.
Yeah.
He can still get around. I mean, he had 138 tackles in 12 games. I mean, that guy flies to the ball too.
Fill me in.
This guy's Jack Campbell to me from Iowa.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah, that's Peyton Wilson's Jack Campbell.
Okay,
to me.
I'm gonna check him out.
2021 had a season-ending shoulder injury early in the season, and then 2018 he had a second knee injury his freshman year, and he had an initial knee injury in high school. But he's been healthy these last 2 seasons, hasn't missed a game, been really productive. Won a comeback player of the year award in the ACC in 2022. So Yes, definitely a point.
Yeah.
But you almost wonder, I wonder if there's value there for a linebacker that's coming off injury.
It's right down Dallas's path to take a banged up linebacker that's productive.
They haven't learned from it yet.
I hope. I you know what? If I had to make a prediction, they love the plug and play offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. I think they're taking Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker from Texas A&M.
Ooh.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad pick either.
Linebacker 24?
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight nobody on that.
Yeah. I think that, to me, this kid, and we talk about it, but he's got some overshown tendencies to him, too.
Absolutely.
When you watch him, I mean, he might be maxed out his weight, but the guy had 10 sacks. He can rush the passer. He does a lot of things. But if I had to say a January prediction, Edgerrin Cooper, Texas A&M at their pick.
What would be the reaction from the fan base? The defensive player,
but also
edge rusher.
But it's a linebacker.
Yeah.
It's a linebacker.
He can play off ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this team, they played dime 70% of their snaps this year. Because why? They didn't have linebackers.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
That's not like I'm forcing it there.
The only thing I'm afraid of, though, is you
Don't
mentioned
talk
it.
me out of this.
No. You mentioned it earlier, Nick, in regard to flexibility. I do think that the flexibility of players is starting to become a Band-Aid more for this team.
Whoa.
To me, I think I like that the team has, like, the players
I
have
like this.
flexibility, but I'm looking at some of these gentlemen. I'm like, yeah, like so Edrin Cooper, I think he can play every spot in the linebacker position. I don't know if I want him to do that, though.
Yeah.
I want him to find a home and do that successfully. I felt like that's actually what happened to DeMarvion Overshown in his career, is that he was always moving spots, different coaches, different whatever. I'm looking at Edrin Cooper, and that's the only thing, that's what I'm saying, that's the only thing I'm kind of like, about. If you're going to bring him in here, is he going to be your Mike? Whatever he's going to be, make him that. Don't make him start playing out. We've seen it with Damone Clark. We've seen it with other players where they're playing position out of necessity. They're playing different linebacker roles than what they originally were good at. And I didn't like. I don't like that no more. I'm over that.
You should say, play one position and stick to it.
No, I mean,
Well, you can say it with Parsons, maybe.
no,
huh?
Parsons don't count. He's.
I feel like even now, though, you need Parsons to pick a side. What does Micah Parsons do to your defense? I know he's incredible and he can do a lot of things, but pick a spot and let's roll.
Yeah, because I do think it causes confusion and things when there's injuries and stuff. You need real backup linebackers.
Yeah.
You need you need that. It can't. That's what I mean. It's like I think some of the versatility is great, but with someone like Edrin Cooper, I'm looking at him. I'm thinking he can play he can play Mike. He can play. That's great. Yeah. What does he do the best? Put him there.
Okay, then
sit his ass down.
I'll give you a guy that I think will play just one position at linebacker. Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State.
Boom.
Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State is a Mike linebacker.
Okay.
And he plays like he's shot out of a cannon. He's a full speed player. He tackles really well. He covers. I mean, you can play him in coverage. He's not going to be a liability. Like, he can carry routes. He's got a feel for how to work through gaps and cracks. I mean, he attacks. If you want a guy that's just a true linebacker type player, I think that Eichenberg would be that guy for me.
Yeah, because we was talking about earlier, what's the difference between the teams that you watching now and hey, guess what Fred do?
Yeah.
Play the same spot.
Yeah. He's a linebacker.
Guess what Greenlaw do?
Yeah.
Play the same spot.
Yeah.
Because I do also, too, think when you talk about the development of the player, linebackers a lot. And so
Yeah.
you want them to just get that position, but when you're constantly moving them around, I think it can be detrimental early for some of these players. So I'm like, bring them in here.
I want Trotter so bad here.
Listen, I might.
I don't know
so
I don't know if they'll do it with a 6'2", 230 linebacker.
I'd tell you what would be so funny if the Dallas Cowboys have a linebacking core that has a Texas guy and a Texas A&M guy. It would unite sets. It would be.
It would the bandana.
Yep, they would be the bandanas tied together.
I would probably faint.
Who would be your pick? Who's your first overall pick? 24th overall pick.
Like a person?
Yeah.
Can I say a position?
No, I want a person and a position.
Tater tots.
Yeah, I want a specific.
Well, cause he keep taking all of my.
I'll give you one.
I throw like 7 guys out there with the hope that one of them
one of
lands.
them's gonna hit.
Go ahead, take the same guy if you want.
No.
If you really, really believe it.
I'm taking Graham.
It would
Barton.
make me feel better if you. Who'd you take?
Graham
Lordy.
Barton.
Okay, I got one, but go ahead.
Offensive tackle. That's where I'm going. I mean, you need a big,
We need
meaty
to check those
offensive
injuries
tackle.
there too.
Yeah, there might be some injury background, but
labor
that
on
might be why he's there at 24. That might be why he's there. So 6'5", 315. He moves well, and I like the way
Played
he
center his
finishes.
freshman year. I talked to a scout about him. I said, "Hey, am I on drugs thinking this guy could play center?" He goes, "No, he played center his freshman year." I think he goes. My guy said, he goes, "I think he has to play inside."
Ooh.
But that's yeah.
So then you could kick your left guard out the left tackle. You could put Tyler Smith out there. He's the left tackle of the future, like you initially planned.
Nick hates your plan right now. Nick just totally hates your plan.
I like it. I like it. Hey, you've got some guys up front. I want somebody that can finish, and Barton finishes.
Yeah.
At the point of
He
attack,
does.
he plays past the whistle. He's a dude.
What's your position? Just give me the position. You don't have to say a player. Just give me the position.
It would be linebacker for
Okay,
me.
cool.
In the first round.
Yeah.
It would be linebacker for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good linebacker.
Man,
class.
I'm hoping we're not doing this on a need thing because I don't think it's a need thing. I think these linebackers can legitimately play.
Well, no, yeah. Did it stand out to you how much of them? It's just kind of the evolution of the position. A lot of them can cover.
Yeah,
they can.
Yeah,
I was like, dang.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you just gonna drop back in coverage and be stride for stride with the receiver over and over again. Okay, like that was one thing that stood out to me is that a lot of them have coverage ability. I think that that matters now in this league.
Our A&M guy can rush too.
Yes, he can. Yeah. Kelly Pearson says, "Who is the Charles Haley of this draft class? The Cowboys need that
Somebody
type
that's crazy?
of crazy to help set the tone on defense.
Gosh.
Who's got a little Charles Haley to him in a good way? In a good way.
Charles is nuts.
Yes, he is.
That's all I was about to say.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Hard to match that.
Can we might need to come back on that one later.
It might be Kamara from Colorado State.
That's a good one.
Because he is a little bit of get in your face, get personal foul penalties, be a little nuts, play the game, play the run, play the pass. You got one?
Yeah, Jerzan Newton out of Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The defensive tackle,
Yeah,
the
defensive
three.
tackle.
He's
He's a Florida guy, South Florida, and he brings it to the field. That'd probably be my guy.
Yeah, mine is. I'm about to skip because we talking about DTs later.
That's okay. Go ahead.
All right, maybe he don't count. But when I seen him, he looked a little Looney Tunes to me. 3 tech, maybe 5 tech. Darius Robinson. I did
Is he from Missouri?
Yes, Missouri.
Missouri,
yes,
yeah.
Missouri. 6'5", 296. Not super huge. I loved his motor, his effort. He extends his arm. He stacks well and he sheds well.
Yeah.
Very violent hands.
Yeah.
I mean, heavy hands. Where he's not the fastest, but I do like that. In space, he thinks he's gonna beat you. He has that this is my ball, I'm going to get it mentality. I think he relies on his power a little bit too much, but I feel like if you find him a home, he's gonna thrive there. He has a nice little toolbox too, but he plays with his hair on fire. He's a little
Man,
off his handle.
you completely nailed this guy.
He off his handle. Have you watched him?
There's a lot of guys in Missouri that are just like this.
Yeah.
Man, they have
And
a
I
defense
think
full
it
of dogs.
They play with a chip, those Missouri kids.
That's what I mean.
That running back.
Yeah.
That running back there is an interesting guy. If you want to start, it led Cody Schrader from Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you talk about a little nuts. When we get in the running backs.
What they doing over there in Missouri?
Yeah.
You know what?
He's a JUCO product that played with a chip on his shoulder.
I'll tell you what, though. The thing about it is Missouri, and no offense, because there's a lot of friends that we all have that are Missouri grads. Great school. Their football program has always kind of been in that mode of we're just not quite there yet. Mm-hmm. So what happens is they get players that other teams miss. Maybe a guy can't go to Nebraska or Iowa or these places in the Midwest, and they end up to go to Missouri. And then you watch them play, and you're like, somebody missed that kid. It's like watching Deron Bland play at Fresno State. Somebody at UCLA or Washington or what missed Deron Bland as a player. Missouri's got a lot of these guys like that.
Yeah.
They have a lot of these. These guys should have, but Missouri finished in the top 10. Give them credit. But it's been a program that's been a little bit of an up and down.
They're starting to recruit a little bit better because of the SEC pitch. You can still stay in the Midwest and play in the SEC, but also they're able to recruit SEC country. Like, hey, we're going to play around the corner from your house every year. So it's helped them, but it's taken them a little bit of time. But I think they're really starting to put it together
now. Is St. Louis still a good area to recruit
absolutely,
kids? Yeah, see, St. Louis, they get kids from St. Louis. St. Louis, you talk about tough. That is a tough city.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Luther Burden next year. Yeah. And that's a St. Louis kid who's going to be wide receiver 1.
There you go.
Potentially next year. So
there's some mean kids in a nice way. Mean not.
Do what?
My best friend's from St. Louis, so.
Yeah. Tell her to go watch some high school football.
All right, let's take our second break.
Zeke was from St. Louis.
Yeah. Second break. When we come back, we're going to do a position spotlight. Yeah, the questions were great today. Position spotlight. We're going to do this a couple episodes in a row just to get up to date on what each position looks like in this 2024 draft class. We're going to start with defensive tackles. What are some of the defensive tackle sweet spots? Is this a good class overall? And what are some of the top names? And who might be flying under the radar? We'll answer all those questions when we come back with more of the draft show right after this.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, Thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood hood.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Hi, I'm Danny McCray, Dallas Cowboys alumni player here with Smoothie King. And Smoothie King wants to ask you, what's that sound? That's the sound of us magically transforming our smoothie bowls into 2 new decadent flavors. Dig into a cool acai or pitaya bowl, handcrafted with crunchy, purely Elizabeth granola, fresh strawberries, and finished with a velvety chocolate hazelnut drizzle. Perfect for breakfast, lunch, or anytime you want to munch. And that's the sound of you making them disappear. Smoothie bowls, now in 2 new decadent flavors. Only at Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
The 99th annual East-West Shrine Bowl will feature 130 of the nation's top NFL draft prospects on Thursday, February 1st at the Star in Frisco. Tickets as low as $20 are available at shrinebowl.com. Proceeds benefit Shriners Children's. Brian, how cool is it to have the Shrine Bowl?
This is great.
Down the hallway.
Yeah, so nice. It really, really is. And congratulations to all the guys that got selected for the teams, the coaches are involved, the fans. If you really want to get a jump on scout and see players live, you can kind of match that live look with what you're seeing on your tape or your study, whatever you're doing, and it really, really does help you that way. So great time of the year for scouts to deal with the Shrine Bowl and then also deal with the Senior Bowl after that. It's a real benefit to be able to go to these events.
And we're going to preview both of them on Thursday.
There you
go.
go.
Preview the Shrine Bowl. We're going to preview the Senior Bowl. Normally, we just preview the Senior Bowl, but with the Shrine Bowl being right here, you got to. It's going to be incredible coverage. Also, got some confirmation over the weekend. Next Thursday, so not this upcoming Thursday, but next Thursday, Dane Brugler is going to be on the show in studio here in Dallas.
One of the founders, yeah,
he's going to come in for the Senior or the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah.
What was that?
Celebrities coming into town.
Yeah, I know.
I talked to him the other day. He misses the draft show.
I'm sure.
He really does. He goes, man, I can't tell you how much fun I used to have on that draft show. I said, you had fun because I would go after you. He goes, yeah, it was part of it. But he goes, I go, well, you got really good at going back after me on it too. So
we're gonna have to make sure that it turns out that way. You gotta go at him a couple times.
Dane's great. He's one of the best at this. He really, really is.
And the draft show fans still love him too.
They do.
I feel like your mentions are as full as mine are.
He's
Dane?
He's a legend. He absolutely is a legend as doing this. Yeah.
I just watched.
I
just watched the Christopher Nolan trilogy. So. Where's Dane?
Where's Dane?
Where is he? I'm sorry.
All right. Position spotlight time. Defensive tackles. Is this a good class for defensive tackles overall, based off of what you've seen so far, Nick?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you compare it to years past, I mean, defensive tackle is kind of a spot you would have to reach at, especially in the early rounds. But I think there's some really good value for some guys. I don't really think you'll see that first defensive tackle off the board until the 20s or the late teens at the very earliest. But I think once you look into that late first round, second round, third round, there's going to be some guys that come off the board that are pretty interesting. We've looked at Jerzan Newton We talked about him a little bit last week out of Illinois. I mean, it has kind of been a thought that he's, this runaway DT1, but Byron Murphy out of Texas.
Byron
that's
Murphy,
a guy,
give me that guy.
Out of DeSoto.
Yes.
He's coming out of Texas after 3 years. I mean, he's a little bit shorter than what you might want at defensive tackle, but he looks like a grown man, and he looked like a grown man at 15 years old. And this kid's incredible. He was committed to Baylor for the longest, and Texas got in on him late, was able to flip him and get him to Texas. Sorry, Waco boy. Him and Tavondre Sweat at Texas this past year really did some great work. Now, I want to talk about these Texas guys a little bit, but do you want to ask that question to the table really quick before we do that?
Yeah, real quick, because Sweat specific, they're two different types of players.
Yeah,
they're not the same player. Byron Murphy, he does a little bit of everything. 310. I mean, he's a freak. I mean, a legitimate freak. Tavondre Sweat is a physical just monster. 360 plus.
Tall.
I mean, big,
362.
Tall, 6'4". Yeah, 362.
He's a load.
I think that's at least for Dallas right now.
He's not a one-trick guy, though,
No,
man.
he's not.
It's amazing.
If you're talking about a guy you need to stuff the middle, that you need to stop the run, I think he would fit perfectly
or catch some red zone
Dallas.
passes.
Please.
That would work too. But they're two completely different prospects. Don't look at the helmet and say, they're Texas defensive tackles or yada, yada, yada. Completely different. Look at them separately because they can both be really good in their own right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I looked at him, I felt like he's one of the true run stoppers in this. So what do you mean, Brian?
He's not going to lose 30 pounds his rookie year, right?
You trying to start stuff.
I'm just asking.
He would still be 332.
I'd still take it.
But what do you mean he's not just a one-trick guy? What do you think what else do you think he can do?
I'll tell you what, man. The thing that is interesting, because you could see him rush the passer, actually. You could see him because he plays with so much power, that upper body strength. I mean, he knocks an opponent back, and then he's got the footwork to kind of the footwork. All of a sudden, the guy's knocked back. And now he's kind of dealing with this monster coming at him, and then with the footwork to get around him. So it's one of those things. I mean, he just drives guys back into the backfield, but then he's kind of got the nimble feet to get around them and then get in on the quarterback. So that's what I love about him. I mean, sometimes you get these massive guys and they just stand there.
Yeah.
This guy actually has movement and the slide and the agility, and I mean, it's kind of like you look at him in the way he plays. He's got low pad level. Mm-hmm. You think of a guy that he's kind of a taller guy, but he plays down. He bends his knees, and I really do like the hand use, the strong in the upper body. I mean, give me that type of guy.
When I talk about defensive tackles, I want to see the lower body mobility match that upper body physicality. Sure. And that's what I see from both of these guys. I think that's one of the few things that I think they do similarly.
Right.
When you look at Tavondre Sweat, he was a guy that really didn't develop until that fifth year, and that's a credit to defensive line coach Bo Davis, who's now at LSU.
Went back to LSU.
Yes, sir. But being able to have that fifth season and really develop over this past off season, add that extra weight, it was huge for him. I mean, we see that. I mean, we're looking at a second, third round guy now, and then you look at Byron Murphy. He was able to power that strength that he's always had. I mean, he's going to be one of the stronger guys you see at the combine. I mean, he's going to be strong, and he's able to pair that with that mobility now that he has now. They both needed the other thing, as far as like Byron Murphy needing the lower half, Tavondre needing the upper half, and they combined both of them, and they were able to kind of make that work.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it going to be important with when you look at tandems, which you don't see a lot in college? To me, it was like steady. This was a real tandem.
Yeah.
To your point, they build off of each other. Is that something to consider when you are drafting this person, to look at, okay, do I need to place him next to this person? Because I think you could say a thing about Newton, too. I do think who he's played next to has made a difference in how he's schemed and taken on double teams and things of that nature. Is that something you look at when you're drafting?
I think it's a valid question.
No, it
is. Because you want to see what they're playing beside and what they're playing around. My first thought when you brought that up was Georgia defensively. The last couple of years, you've got Jordan Davis, and you've got some of those guys, and they've gone and played. I mean, most of them are in Philadelphia, honestly, but most of them have gone on and played well, defensive tackle wise, defensive line wise, wherever they end up, and a lot of times they're not together unless they are in Philadelphia.
I'll say the one thing about Sweat, he's you talk about a guy that's extremely durable. The guy's played 460 snaps the last 2 years. You know, I mean, you always worry about guys that big playing in heat and humidity and all that. And
460?
That's a hot stadium to play in.
Yeah, and I mean, and, you know, and he's not coming off the field. No. You can throw on the Alabama game. I mean, and you're watching Alabama, and Alabama's got a good offensive line, and it is an all-day fight between Alabama and Texas on their offense and defensive lines. And these guys, like I say, this Sweat, he plays. The grass ain't dying under his feet. I mean, he's moving to the outside. He's getting up the field. I mean, it's impressive to watch a man that big operate the way he does.
Huntsville, Texas, Devondre Sweat, by the way.
Don't look at me, Kyle, because I don't want to say. I would just.
What do you throw a Michigan? You get throw that Michigan tackle out there?
Listen, we just talking about DTs.
We're talking about defensive tackles.
Chris Jenkins, I scouted his dad at Carolina. Go ahead, talk about Chris Jenkins, the junior.
Well, first of all, let me start off by saying that we have Michigan. I know people get tight.
National champs.
He was a big part of it.
He sure was. He sure was.
One thing that stood out to me, number one, I wanted to look into the character. A lot of really good character witnesses for this guy, who he is, and his work ethic. They talk about how much he was in the weight room. He came in at 240.
Yep.
He's at 305 now.
305.
So
wow.
You get to see that player is willing to, sacrifice in that way to put the weight on and everything that he needs to do. He transitioned from DN to D tackle. You can see some of that in his game. And also, too, you mentioned the fact that his father, he comes from a football family.
Yep.
His dad was a nose tackle DT.
Hard man to block.
4-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Very successful. His uncle, Cullen Jenkins, 13 years in the league. So he has the lineage of a football player. But when you get into the player, this is a run-stopping defender. I mean, I do think that he takes on double teams well. He takes them on a lot. He got double teamed a lot more this past year because of Mozzie's absence, and I felt like he handled that pretty well at times. He does have to focus on, and Brian mentioned it earlier, what the heck is going on?
It's their scheme.
Is it the scheme?
It's their scheme.
Because it's the get off and the technique. And he said that his uncle, his dad have even pulled him in the side and to talk to him about it. So it's the scheme.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the stance.
It's the stance. He plays a lot more elongated than what Mozzie plays. Mozzie was a little bit more narrow, and Will McClay even talked about kind of opening up Mozzie's stance a little more from Michigan. But when you watch Jenkins play, he's a little bit longer, but it's a scheme. They are a tick late coming off the ball.
Yeah.
They seriously, I watch it, and it's the last damn thing I put in my notes. And I said, let me get to it here if I could real quick. I said,
what's the last thing?
I said, like to see more explosive when coming off the ball as a pass rusher. I go, this is likely a scheme thing after Mozzie Smith struggles with the same thing.
Yep.
It's a combination. This guy's got a combination of raw strength and athletic potential.
That's what
this guy is.
That's what he wins with.
But they are. You watch him play against Washington, play the run.
Yep.
They can't block this guy.
They shut down
in a big game. He was, and I know you're going to see the maize and blue and the helmet and Michigan defensive lineman. I get it. It's a scheme thing with these guys. It really is. The more now you watch, you understand. After watching Mozzie play this year, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it watching Michigan football. That's what you're going to have to deal with coming out of Michigan if you're drafting their defensive lineman.
Does that make you feel better about
No,
drafting?
Mozzie still needs to get off the ball quicker.
I feel like either way you're still
a football player.
Yeah, you got to be better.
The ball is right there when it's snapped. Go.
Yes.
Don't snap
wait.
and then wait. I can't tell you how many times, I know we all did it. His hands on the ground.
Yeah.
Their linemen are moving. His hand's still on the ground. It's a Michigan thing.
I think it's even worse with Mozzie too, because it's very clear that he has been relying on his strength his entire life.
No question.
And he can be okay with having the slow get off, but now he's reached that point to where he can't.
And that's
a great
what I would
point.
say the difference between, if you wanted to try Jenkins, I think the difference between him, I think his functional strength is better. than Mozzie's was to start.
Wow.
I do.
Who's our guy at Clemson? Hora?
Haven't gotten there yet as far as pronouncing that name. Ahoroho. Ruke Ahoroho.
Give me a moment.
Yeah.
Let me try and find it.
Absolutely not. Wait, what?
No, it's seriously. I think you say it Ahora. I think it's how it's pronounced.
Okay.
I think it's how it's pronounced.
Oh, I
I'm
see
going
him.
to their media
Clemson.
guide. Give me a moment.
Yeah, Clemson. Okay, real quick. This guy, I mean, he's 6'4", he's 290. Here's another 3 technique that you're going to have to kind of deal with here. It tends to play a little high for my liking, but you could see blockers, they get under him a little bit. But his best pass rush techniques and stuff are like that when he's on the move. I mean, he's a bull rusher. He needs a little bit better plan. But this is a guy that people are kind of talking about a little bit. 6'4", 290. He plays in a rotating. Clemson's got all those rotating defensive linemen, but you're going to see a funny name, and you're going to have to study this kid because he's a guy that has the ability to make some plays, and he made some plays for Clemson in these games.
When
Go
do you
for
have it?
No, go for it.
When we do these positional spotlights, can I do a stay away from this guy?
Sure.
All right, stay away from Leonard Taylor III out of Miami. Not a huge fan of what he's put on the field this past year in Miami. He was a Miami Palmetto kid, stayed home, went to University of Miami, was a 5-star prospect, top 5 in his class, and I just have not loved the production from him since he's been at Miami. I say stay away because he's starting to generate like that second, third round love, and I don't see that. I see a guy who's kind of lazy off the ball, which is oddly enough. He has a crazy motor. He does. He could stay on the field for quite a bit of snaps, kind of similar to Javondre Sweat in that way, but I just don't love the guy. I think he's not a true defensive tackle either. I think you would have to move him out to like a 3 or a 5 even. He reminds me of Viliama Fehoko from last year as far as the draft process goes, and I think the Cowboys kind of reached on Fehoko, taking him in the 4th. I thought it at the time. I mean, obviously, I think that now too. So I think this is more of like a 5th, 6th round guy. I don't see him right now as a 2nd, 3rd round guy.
By the way, Ruke Oro. And there's the H's are silent.
Oreo.
There we go.
Oreo.
Ora. Watch him, number 33.
I'm watching him tonight.
And then you'll be like, why did you make me waste 30 minutes of my life right there?
Oro. It's Oro.
Yeah.
There's 4 different.
You will. You'll text me. You'll go, I hate this guy, Brian.
Why would you say that?
I'm interested.
You think you know me at this point?
I'm getting an understanding.
I'm going to watch him.
So it's basically all the H's are silent.
Yes.
Oro.
That's what it says.
I can do that.
There we go.
We got it. There you go.
Literally
We
putting a
figured it
note
out,
right
everybody.
Hey.
Well done, y'all.
If you can do Igbenogany,
Good job today.
You can do this.
Noah Igbenogany.
You understand?
Albert Okwebanam from Missouri, tight end.
Yeah.
Boom.
All right, now you're
Got
pushing
it, baby.
it. You're pushing it.
Got it. All right,
There's
we'll
a
be
defensive
back.
lineman at Alabama, too.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Iabora. Oh, okay. We'll get that one next week.
We'll attack that one on Thursday.
Yeah,
Phonetics class on Thursday, guys.
11 a.m. Central Time, draft show on Thursday. We're going to preview the Shrine Bowl, preview the Senior Bowl coming up as well. Be sure to join us. Glad you're with us today. For Chris Beam, Jasmine Marshall, Paul in the back, Nick Harris, Brian Broaddus, Aisha Morrison, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you on Thursday with more of the draft show.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?